$5 billion have already been spent while you were sleeping. One of the stars of the playoffs, Trae Young, agreed to a 5-year rookie max extension worth up to $207 million. The opposite end of the age spectrum is Chris Paul. He's got a new 4-year deal in Phoenix, could be worth as much as $120 million. Of course, he led that team to the finals this year. Perhaps the biggest free agent moves came in Miami. Kyle Lowry joining the Heat in a sign and trade. They also add former Bucks forward P.J. Tucker, who played such an important role for Milwaukee there. And so let me bring in Woj, who had to be the busiest guy. I don't know how your thumbs are holding up today, Woj, after all the tweets from yesterday. But what more can you tell us about the Lowry deal in particular and the reaction to the big moves made in Miami yesterday?
Well, the Kyle Lowry to Miami move, I think it's been some time in the making. Kyle Lowry has had his eye on the Heat. I think once he knew it was over for him in Toronto, his relationship with Jimmy Butler, and just how he fits with that Heat organization. I remember sitting in the bubble one day back in Orlando a year ago, and I was sitting with Masai Ujiri, the Heat's president, and Eric Spoelstra, Miami's coach, came over, and they were talking a little bit. They had just played some really physical, tough game the night before, and there was just so much alike about those two organizations, how they played on the court. It's just a natural fit for Kyle Lowry, and this is a formidable Miami team that is going to be just kind of like what you used to seeing with Spoelstra, Pat Riley, tough-minded, certainly talented, and they also re-signed Duncan Robinson, 5 years, $90 million, the most ever for an undrafted player in the NBA.
Not bad for a guy who started his career in the NESCAC, as Duncan Robinson did at Williams, and now he's got
Williams.
The big money. That's exactly right. But one way or another, the Heat feel like they're sort of putting together a contender in the East alongside the Nets and the Bucks. And then let's go out west. You and I talked a lot last week about the Lakers and the money they had left and everything else. What are we hearing as far as reaction around the league to what the Lakers did yesterday and the other moves they have the potential to make?
Well, certainly the Lakers, as they now try to kind of remake their bench and bring in players, many of whom at the veteran minimum, players they've been familiar with, as we reported. Trevor Ariza coming back to the Lakers, Dwight Howard back in L.A., and one more player who they're trying to sign and could decide as soon as today, Carmelo Anthony.
Carmelo Anthony to be reunited with LeBron James, or to be united, I guess, as great friends, and they played together in the Olympics. It would be their first time playing together in the NBA. That would really be something. Okay, we'll keep a close eye on that, and obviously you got the Twitter fingers ready to go as these stories continue to develop. Meanwhile, NBA, where over $1.5 billion have already been spent while you were sleeping. One of the stars of the playoffs, Hawks guard Trae Young, agreed to a 5-year rookie max extension worth up to $207 million. Chris Paul, meanwhile, will stay with Phoenix. He has a new 4-year deal. Could be worth as much as $120 million. He's 36 years old. Of course, he led his team to the finals this year. And maybe the biggest free agent move so far coming in Miami. Kyle Lowry joining the Heat in a sign and trade deal. Miami also adding former Bucks forward P.J. Tucker. And so the Heat trying to get themselves into a position where they can compete. And so let's go live to Tokyo, where the busiest man in the world is our NBA insider, Brian Windhorst. I say the world literally, as he is a world away. Let's talk about the Heat now. We sometimes I feel like we've started looking at the East as though it's the Nets and the Bucks, and that's it. Would you now put Miami in there as a legit contender with Kyle Lowry?
Yeah, they're right on the edge. I mean, Pat Riley has won so many free agent sweepstakes in his executive career, and here is another one. It's a huge addition for them. And not only that, it's going to really engage Jimmy Butler. I do think these two guys are going to work well together. But the Heat are not done. They have to fill up to 7 roster spots with minimum salaries. And they are going to be in a dogfight with the Lakers, who may have to sign up to 9 minimum salary players. So which role players are able to come and get those cheap deals is going to be important. And then they need their young players to elevate. Tyler Hero had a sophomore slump season. Yeah, Lowry and Butler are great. They brought Duncan Robinson back. They need Tyler Hero to play more like he did 2 years ago. Then you may have the package of a championship.
Well, you mentioned the Lakers. Let's talk about the moves that they made yesterday. You say they're going to have to fill out the roster with minimum salary players, but they brought back several familiar faces. How do they look right now, given how tied up they are financially?
They look old. They are arguably going to be one of the oldest championship contenders we've ever seen. They do say in the NBA, you win with men and not boys, but they may want to try to get a couple of boys because they've got to try to bring him back. This is what LeBron wants. LeBron wants to play with guys he's familiar with and guys he trusts. That's what the Lakers are delivering him. They don't need any more home runs. They've got stars in place, but they need some singles. They may have started hitting a couple yesterday, but they need some more.
All right, we'll see what they can do. In the meantime, while you were sleeping, not you, Wendy, but everybody watching was sleeping, Team USA beating Spain in the Olympics there. And so after something of a slow start for this team, both in the exhibition to France, does this team now appear to you destined to win the gold medal?
They're getting close. They're still not putting whole games together. They were down 10 points in the first quarter, or the first half in this one. But Kevin Durant has just been fantastic. Look, Greeny, he's the best American Olympian basketball player we've had. He's going to surpass Carmelo, I think. And he is adding to that case. He had 29 points in this one. And even if they're not great, Durant makes them great when he keeps playing like this. If he's got two more in the chamber like this, they're going to take gold.
We'll see what happens. Again, Wendy is a man who has not slept in an awful long time. Thank you very much for staying up and getting up here with all the latest on the NBA, Wendy. Meanwhile, to the NFL.
I mean, you have $130 million. There's 5 guys on your roster. That's it. So you're left with the veteran minimum exception. You're left with your $5.9 million tax minimum. What really hurt them was Alex Caruso going to the Bulls.
Yeah.
Because you had bird rights on him. You could have exceeded the cap. You still have Taylor Horton-Tucker as a restricted free agent. This is kind of the name to keep an eye on. Not as far as returning back to the Lakers.
Okay.
You still have bird rights. You can maybe go out and do a sign and trade, and maybe you can flip Schroeder to a team and bring back multiple players here. The market is chilly right now.
Yeah.
I mean, there is limited spending out there, and maybe you can take a team and flip him to a team that needs point guard. But Trevor Ariza, Dwight Howard, Wayne Ellington, guys who had played there before are all back, but that's what happens when you have $130 million committed to 5 players.
Yeah, Laker fans wonder if they can maybe use that asset to go get a shooter to put on that squad as well. And lastly, let's go up to Chicago because they added a pair to the backcourt there. It's been a while since Chicago's been in the mix or doing something. They're trying to build a little something here in the interim.
I loved what Chicago was able to do. Point guard was a priority for them, especially with Kobe White out for an extended period of time. And they had limited flexibility, so they acted as a team over the salary cap. So what they were able to do is they were able to flip Tomas Satoransky and then use Garrett Temple in a sign and trade, and then they go out and get Lonzo Ball. That is a good move for them as far as an upgrade there.
Right.
Alex Caruso on the mid-level exception. The big question is going to be, and Brian Windhorst talked about it this morning, Zach LaVine, renegotiation eligible. They don't have cap space right now to go out and do it. But the roster is improved.
Yeah.
And that's the big goal. So he can still sign a big contract next offseason, but he's going to have to wait. But I think the goal is improve the roster around him, let him wait 1 year, and that money will be sitting there.
Yeah, and that's the thing for him. If they make a run to the playoffs like the Knicks did out of nowhere, maybe that'll satisfy him for the season and get paid in the summer of 2022. Bobby Marks stays paid. Look at that suit.
Should we call NBA expensive agency? There is nothing free about these guys. Are all signing big tickets. And the first day of free agency full of action. The big players were on South Beach. Miami Heat working towards completing a sign and trade. Bringing Kyle Lowry from the Raptors. 2019 champion, expect to snag a 3-year deal. Then the Heat turned towards one of their own. Working on a max extension with Jimmy Butler. Have to have him in the fold. The 31-year-old led the Heat.